of Naledi have marched to the local police station to hand over a memorandum. The community is aggrieved about the lack of education on food safety. It follows the death of 2 boys from suspected food poisoning on Wednesday. It is believed the boys bought biscuits from a local spaza shop. A candlelight ceremony was held, or rather will be held tomorrow for the children. Let's get more on this story. Our reporter Nqobile Madlala is monitoring developments there. Nqobile, of course, these stories or incidents have sparked quite a lot of concern for Soweto residents. What's the latest where you are?
Well, indeed, in fact, they've said that they're worried about the illegal spaza shops that are operating in their area, and more and above that, they want regulators to be able to look into how healthy and what sort of the food that they are selling at this point. So they were saying that when we spoke to the elderly that was part of the march, they were telling us that in the early years when they were growing up in Soweto, they had found that health inspectors used to come to their areas, and of course they used to look into these spaza shops, and now they find that none of that is happening. So they're calling for those health inspectors to also come on the ground, and at the same time they're saying that the police needs to also be held responsible, mainly because they're saying that they're also responsible for what is taking place in these areas. These illegal spaza shops could actually feel the arm of the law, but because some of these police are colluding or are doing some corruptions on the ground, therefore they continue to operate in the area. So they're demanding that the police also take their position. But I want to bring in now some of the leaders that are here on a national level in terms of the Youth League, and I want to bring you in, sir. It was a long march that we saw take place here in Soweto, but first of all, we're hearing that you are now saying that the police must be held responsible for what they're taking, for what they're doing in these communities. Why deliver a memorandum to the police and not to various other departments that might be responsible for these health inspectors?
You must understand that the most important instrument of the state is law enforcement unit, or apparatus of the state, of which the police are that very important apparatus of the state. Now, our discussion is about the police. The police must hold accountable the customs which are allowing counterfeit products to enter into our townships, into our rural spaces, in terms of the spaza shops and in terms of what we see that the foreign nationals are subsequently, selling in our streets and so on. What we are talking about here is economic sovereignty of the people of South Africa, and that's not xenophobic. Any country allows what we call immigrants on the basis of their legal entry into their own territorial boundary, and South Africa can't be immune to that particular reality. Go to Zimbabwe, they even deport people, forcefully. As South Africa was saying, we are amenable in terms of asylum seekers. We give them proper documentation, but undocumented foreign nationals who are doing business in South Africa, that is illegal, and police must enforce the law. And that's what we're saying as the ANC Youth League. It's nothing xenophobic. It's about ensuring that the laws of the country are followed, and are followed by South Africans and are followed by non-South Africans in that particular regard. There's no xenophobia there. There's no hate of our African brothers or sisters who have come into South Africa. We're telling them that you come into any other African nation state on the basis that you are understood to be there for what purpose, so that you are given the proper documentation for being in that particular space.
I mean, some of your leaders that were reading the memorandum, they called it a love letter, saying that it's most likely not going to be taken seriously. Why do you feel at this point that as the Youth League taking a memorandum to the police that they won't take you seriously?
No, we're saying the South African Police Service is not doing, its job, and we're saying it's not doing up to its own expectation. These police stations are infiltrated. They are nerve centers for criminal activities, and that's why we have said to the Minister that he must take charge. We can't see police station being nerve centers, of criminal activities, drug lords, people who are doing all forms of practices that are illegal in the country, our own police stations. And we're saying he must take charge or vacate the post.
Would you agree, I mean, this has been happening in the community for quite some time. This incident is one of many incidents that has been seen by communities with regards to spaza shops. Why didn't you take steps then?
No, we've engaged senior leaders in government to say they must take charge of the responsibility. Like I'm telling you, we're saying the customs, you know, is one of the perilous elements of the state where counterfeit products, what we call illicit products, enter the country illegally. And subsequently, those illicit products, they get to be found in our township spaces, in our rural spaces, in the form of spaza shops. When you go there in those spaza shops and look at the products that are there, they are not SABS approved. They are not approved by any of the bodies that are supposed to be giving accreditation to certain products to be sold, that they meet the necessary health standards of the country. So this is why we're saying the law enforcement officers or the law enforcement body, which is the police, they must do their own job. They must call joint operations and subsequently call in the departments that are supposed to be doing this particular operation. But at the center of protection of the communities is the police, and we're saying they must do their job.
Can we expect to see you in some of these families, or have you gone there? How are they feeling?
We've gone to many families. We've gone to business chambers, business forums. We're engaging all of them. And we're telling them that once they take over, South Africans were proposing a very comprehensive proposition around the issue of spaza shops. We're saying that issues like saloons, spaza shops, you know, these small, light retail economies, you know, small and micro businesses, they must be a preserve of South Africans. And that must not be a matter that we're dilly-dallying about. I mean, it happens in all other countries, you know, and that certain areas, like jobs like waiters in restaurants, in the hospitality industries, farm workers, those should be preserved of South Africans, you know, who are semi-skilled and who are at a level where they are not highly skilled. Those jobs that do not need sophisticated skills in the country must be preserved, and there must be national legislation for that.
But families have said that they don't want this politicized, and I mean the ANC Youth League has come out as ANC Youth League. Don't you feel at this point that it feels a bit like it's being politicized? I
don't think that the families have ever there is nothing apolitical, by the way. It's political that these foreign nationals are here undocumented. It has to do with the destabilization political of their own countries and their own economies, where they are from. It's a political matter. We don't know what they are talking about when they say it must not be politicized. There is nothing apolitical about people migrating into another country undocumented.
Thank you very much for speaking to us. That is the ANC Youth League Secretary General. He is going to be speaking to some of the people that are inside this hall. But of course, at the center of all those arguments, it is a matter of how to control these spaza shops and how to ensure that they are still viable for the community, but also that they don't go against the community. These incidents have been reported in Soweto quite various times and in other areas. I mean, just after the two little boys that passed away, we heard of another incident that took place in the same area in Soweto. We've heard about Bekkersdal as well, where there was other children that passed away from buying from a vendor. And of course, all of these things are still being investigated by the police, and we understand they're still waiting for post-mortem at this point. But the community is still asking that law enforcement be visible, that they take charge, and as you can hear there from the Youth League, that they're saying that at the center of it all, the police must be the frontliners.
That's our reporter, Nqobile Madlala, of course, speaking to the ANC Youth League Secretary General there, Nqobile.